There was a day when the world went still. No engines, no traffic, no airplanes carving white lines across the blue. For the first time in living memory, silence became louder than sound. It wasn't a meteor, a war, or an alien invasion. It was something invisible, something we couldn't see. But it forced billions of people to stop. When the world locked down in 2020, the air itself seemed to change. In cities once drowning in smog, skies turned blue. The Himalayas became visible from towns in India for the first time in decades. NASA satellites recorded an extraordinary drop in nitrogen dioxide levels. It was as if the Earth had finally taken a deep breath after centuries of suffocation. And yet, behind this beauty was fear. People stayed indoors, staring out windows. Realizing that our normal had always been fragile, the silence wasn't peace, it was a warning. Factories stopped. Planes were grounded. Ships anchored in still harbors. The machine that powered modern civilization had shut off. Nature stepped back onto the stage. I remember those days vividly. Birds sang outside my window, louder than I'd ever heard. The air smelled different, clean, almost sharp. It was strange to realize that something as deadly as a pandemic could give the planet a moment of healing. But as we soon learned, that silence came at a cost. Every breath we take is borrowed. We live on a planet with a thin blue layer of atmosphere that makes life possible. Strip that away, and Earth becomes just another silent rock floating through space. Yet we rarely think about it. RBR, the world stopped. Air quality was worsening at alarming rates. The World Health Organization estimated that 7 million people die each year from air pollution. Cities like Delhi, Beijing, and Lahore recorded air toxicity levels 10 times higher than safe limits. For millions, breathing had already become a struggle. During the lockdown, global carbon emissions dropped by nearly 17% in a single month. It's the sharpest decline in modern history. But this was temporary. Scientists warned that unless the change was systemic, the planet would revert to its old state as soon as the engines restarted. I remember walking outside after weeks indoors. The first breath of outdoor air hit differently. It felt alive. That moment made me realize how disconnected we had become from the most basic element of life. We talk about money, technology, and power. But none of it matters if the air that fills our lungs turns toxic. The lesson was simple, yet easily forgotten. We survive only as long as the air remains kind to us. There's a strange kind of beauty. In silence, it makes you hear what's been hiding beneath the noise. When everything stopped, planes, factories, nightclubs, highways, the earth sounded different. Cities that never slept finally did. In Italy, people sang from balconies. In Los Angeles, the air cleared so much that residents could see mountains they never knew were there. In Venice, fish returned to clearer canals. Around the world, wildlife stepped into abandoned spaces as if reclaiming what was always theirs. Environmental scientists called it the Great Pause. For the first time, they could study what Earth looked like without human interference. The results were shocking. Airborne particles decreased by up to 60% in some regions. Noise pollution levels fell to historic lows. Even seismic sensors picked up less vibration from human activity. But the silence carried a hidden sadness. Behind those clear skies were empty streets, lost jobs, and millions of lives affected by fear and isolation. Humanity had stopped moving, but not by choice. The world's lungs were healing, while ours were under attack. That contradiction stayed with me. The idea that our suffering could bring Earth relief. It made me wonder if we could cause so much damage by living normally. Could we not also protect it by living consciously? The Earth spoke in silence, and for a brief moment we listened. But as lockdowns lifted, the noise returned. Air pollution climbed back within months. The same cities that celebrated blue skies were once again cloaked in haze. Scientists began calling that period a global experiment. It proved something crucial. The planet can recover faster than we think, but only if we give it the chance. During those quiet months, global wildlife activity surged. Carbon levels dipped. Energy use plummeted. But the moment industries reopened, everything reset. It became clear that Earth wasn't the problem. Our systems of overproduction, overconsumption, and endless travel weren't sustainable. The lost years could have been a turning point, a chance to rebuild smarter, greener, slower. But most of us just went back to chasing time, ignoring the lesson nature tried to teach. Still, not all hope is lost. Many people, myself included, changed perspective. We started asking different questions. Do we really need constant movement? Can progress coexist with balance? Maybe the real pandemic was never a virus, but our disconnection from the planet that gives us life. For me, it all began with a single moment. Standing on my rooftop during those quiet months, watching a sunset that looked almost unreal. The air was still, but the sky burned in colors I'd never noticed before. It felt like the earth was whispering, "Look at me, remember me." I realized how much of life I had taken for granted. The smell of rain, the sound of wind through trees, the rhythm of the world breathing. It made me think of how fragile we are, dependent on something as simple and powerful as clean air. Those months taught me that silence isn't emptiness, it's a mirror. It shows us who we are when the noise fades. When the world stopped breathing, we were forced to confront ourselves, to see the cost of our habits and the value of our planet's fragile heartbeat. Now, years later, I still remember that feeling, the quiet streets, the fresh air, the fear, mixed with wonder. It was Earth's lost years, but maybe, for some of us, it was also a beginning. A reminder that the planet doesn't need saving, we do.